Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Monday, April 16th of the Vermilion Local School District Board of Education. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Jordan?
Here.
Mr. Dawson? Mrs. Ennis?
Here.
Mr. Rice?
Here.
And Mr. Reaney?
Here.
I'd like to mention that Mr. Dawson is not here excused because he has got a late work assignment that pulled him away. So if we could record his absence as excused.
We'll do that.
The next thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence, and that is always done by our Citizens of the Month from Vermilion Elementary School. I'm going to step over here and have our Citizens of the Month come up and introduce themselves. They're going to tell us their name, what grade they're in, who their teacher is, and maybe what grade, what you want to be when you grow up. Which I always say, happy. When I grow up, I just want to be happy. But you can say whatever you want. Start us off. Bear with us 1 second. We're negotiating a contract.
My name is Lillian. I am in kindergarten. My teacher is Mrs. Lowe, and I want to be a baton twirler when I grow up.
We've come to terms.
My name is Nevaeh, and my teacher is Mrs. Frank, and I'm in first grade. I am Madison, and I am in first grade. My teacher is Miss Schultz. I want to be a teacher when I grow up. My name is Evelyn. I'm in kindergarten. My teacher's name is Mrs. Stripmather. I want to be a doctor when I grow up. My name is Gates, and I am in kindergarten. My teacher is Mr. Oakham, Mrs. Shea, and I want to be an army dude when I grow up.
I am Trevor. I am in kindergarten. My teacher's name is Mrs. Gregg. When I grow up, I want to be an army dude.
My name is Sophia. I am in second grade. My teacher is Miss Hollers. When I grow up, I want to be a clothes designer.
My name is Josh. My teacher is Miss Annabelle. I'm in third grade, and I want to be a professional soccer player.
My name is Josh. I am in third grade, and when I grow up, I want to be happy.
My name is Joshua Snyder. I am in third grade, and my teacher is Mrs. Coynes. And when I grow up, I want to be a professional dentist.
You're going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. here. Let's turn to the flag. And kids, get us started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All our staff from Vermillion Elementary, you know what they said. Now we follow with a moment of silence. Great, thank you, everybody. Good job. Yeah, good job. Good job.
That girl she should stay here. Fashion changes.
That's right.
Okay, thanks once again to our Citizens of the Month. That was a fun group. The next item on our agenda, item 4, student liaison update. Mrs. Innes.
Yes. This evening our guests are Mr. Burrow and Ms. Gentile from Sailor Way Middle School, and they are in charge of the History Day projects that were going on. I had a chance to visit Sailor Way in February when all the students presented their History Day projects. I was very impressed by them. A number of them went on to district competition in March in Fremont, and we actually have several that are going on to state competition on April 28th in Columbus. So kudos to Ms. Gentile and Mr. Burrow for all that they've done to these students, and they will tell you a little bit more about it tonight.
I'm going to start it off. We started the process actually through Mr. Zeller, our new principal. He had done the project in Pennsylvania, where he had taught before, and was a big advocate of it, and really encouraged us to give it a try. So we said, sure, we'll give it a try. And I went to a conference initially and met some of the state people. One of the state coordinator actually came and spoke to our classes twice to give them a little bit of an update and a little bit of a start on it before Christmas break. And then when we came back from Christmas, we actually hit the ground running. We started the project, and we actually did the project for 7 weeks, and that seems like a long time, but what we did was we spent some time discussing how to pick a good group, how to pick a good group member. We talked about picking topics. We had a theme that we had to follow, which was revolution, reaction, and reform. So when the kids picked a topic, they had to make sure that it coincided with that. And then obviously we chose partners. Some chose to do it themselves. Some chose partners. Probably the biggest benefit of this was the research skills that they learned. And the nice thing about that is it will transcend past just this project this year. It'll actually, in fact, we've already, I think, seen some of the benefits. We're doing another project now, and they're already, so attuned to researching and finding things. And being an old guy, I'm not as adept at the internet as they are, and it was amazing how they could just find sites, find things. And the key to all of this really was finding primary resources, which meant finding things that were said at that time. If it was Pearl Harbor, it was someone's quote. If it was Pearl Harbor, it was a speech that they found online. We actually had One group who was kind of having a hard time getting going, they actually did theirs on Elvis, and they contacted Graceland and did a phone interview with the people at Graceland for two separate days where they had their questions already set up. We had one group contact the National Holocaust Museum and do a phone interview. And it got everybody excited because of the different avenues that they could find to find these resources. We met together with the library uptown, Ritter Library. We obviously did our library at school. We did interlibrary exchanges. We had kids get online and get books from other libraries that they got sent to our library, so they learned the use of our library and all the things they could do. They actually had 5 choices. They could do a paper, which I think we had one group do a paper. They could do a display board, which we have one of them that's going to state right here. They could do a website, which we'll show you in a second. They could do a documentary. We had 2 groups do documentaries, almost like a 60 minutes type show. Or they could do a reenactment, which was kind of like a play. The other thing that they learned to do that I think was really beneficial and will be beneficial to them is the annotated bibliography. They learned if they borrowed an idea from somebody, if they borrowed a quote from somewhere, they had to put it in their bibliography. They had to give the person credit. And we're doing a project now on something else on the Middle Ages, and they already know automatically that they have to do that sort of thing. And it's kind of neat to see them do that. And like Shelley said, we had a big fair in Sailor Way's cafeteria where we had probably almost 100, I think, presentations. And Sid was there, and I think Shelley, you were there too. And it was impressive. We had a lot of parents come. It was kind of a family type thing, I guess, which was kind of cool to see. And we took 25 people to the regional competition, and then we actually moved 4 people on to state. And quite honestly, we were a little bit disappointed that that's all we had, because we weren't really sure what we were going to see when we went to this regional competition, and we weren't sure how we were going to stack up. And I along with Mr. Zeller, who also came, we all thought that we should have probably taken more. Our projects and our boards and documentaries really stacked up well against everybody else's. So the kids did a really nice job. And Mrs. Gentile is going to talk a little bit about the 2 examples.
Okay. First of all, I'd just like to give the names of the people who are going to state. We had 4 groups. The first one was Women Fight for the Right to Vote. That was the exhibit board. That is Haley Kleinen, Sierra Jones, and Maddie Urig. The website that you see displayed is Fashion Changes in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. That was done by Katie Stump, Delaney McCoy, and Kelly Ennis. Another group website was the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was done by Eric Bender, Bryce Fisher, Stachio Gibbons, and Luke Malin. And the final project is another website about Milton Hershey, and that was done by Abby Hampton, Macy McDaniel, and Sammy Peters. I'll talk about the exhibit board first. The judges really liked that first of all, it's very colorful. It stands out. It catches your eye. They showed a lot of extensive research. You can see they have a lot of primary sources. And one thing that they really focus on is their conclusion, how they tie it to the theme, that they show that they have an understanding in history. And not only did this group do that well, but they put their conclusion in bright pink so it stood out, that they really learned a lot from their research. The website, these girls did a great job, and I thought it was really interesting how they related this to the theme. They didn't just talk about fashion and what it was during that time. They actually talked about how events in history influenced fashion during those time periods, and they created the banner that you see across the top of the page themselves. They did all the formatting, and I'll just kind of quickly click through the pages so you can see it. But each page is a different theme according to the time period. So the 50s, they talk about the sock hops. In the 60s, they talk about, Woodstock and the different fashion, the Beatles, kind of the British invasion. And in the 70s, women's liberation, how women kind of started wearing more men's clothes and that sort of thing. So they really did a good job of tying history into why people wore the things that they wore. And then you can see each group had to create a timeline, which they did very well. And they also provided a conclusion and then a bibliography citing their sources. So we're very proud of all the hard work that our students put into this. We're looking forward to the state competition, and we think it's going to be a great experience for all of them. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow, for referring to yourself as an old guy. We should say birth year and month. I don't know if I like that, but I was lucky enough, and I just learned tonight that my good friend Mr. Burrow got me to judge. I think 2 or 3 of those that you mentioned that were going on to the competition were ones that I had the luck of draw to judge. And they were fabulous. I was especially taken back by the interaction I had asking questions with the students on the Cuban Missile Crisis. They really knew their stuff. They knew more to talk than they put into their presentation. It was really cool.
That was part of the regional competition, is they were interviewed by judges, and they had to do the same thing. They had to be able to converse about the topic.
It was great.
Thank
Great.
you.
Good job.
Nice job.
The next item on the agenda, item 5, legislative update. Mr. Reaney.
Yeah, two quick and easy items, I think. First, I don't know if you guys saw, but 15 years ago, on March 24th, was the 15th anniversary of the Ohio Supreme Court ruling of DeRolf. I don't know if you guys are all familiar with that, but that was in 1997. The Ohio Supreme Court ruled that the way Ohio funds schools is unconstitutional. At that time, they wrote, by our decision today, we send a clear message to lawmakers. The time has come to fix the system. Ohio's public school financing scheme must undergo a complete systematic overhaul. And as we all know, nothing happened. I mean, literally nothing happened. They ignored the court. And in 2002, just those few years later, the court ruled that the system still had to be overhauled, and they ruled 3 more times that the way we've been funding our schools is unconstitutional. Unfortunately, that they relinquished jurisdiction in the case without seeing that overhaul that they ordered. And there is a little glimmer of light now currently, because we're awaiting Governor Kasich. Their administration is coming up with a funding plan, and we're expecting to hear that next year. So maybe something will happen. We don't know. We've been promised many times in the past, but it's really important that somebody pay attention to that. The next report I have is the mid-biennial review. There's a few things that are ongoing. 3 particular bills that I'm aware of. First is House Bill 487, and we've talked about that a few times. In particular, shared services provisions are in that one. Senate Bill 315 is an energy bill. Doesn't particularly affect education in general, but Senate Bill 316 is a educational bill. It speaks of aligning Ohio law with the Department of Education waiver application for the No Child Left Behind Act that we all know about, that's been in effect for years. And they're looking for a waiver, and so a lot of that activity. The other part of that bill is the fact that we are transitioning to letter grades on the state report card to traditional A, B, C, D, and F grading system. So those are the few things that I picked out of what's happening down in the state this month. Thanks.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Rainey? I have one comment. I just came back into town and checking an email I got from what appears to be a board member at another Ohio district, where in their district, they finally have said it's time to rise up. We will be the leader to organize districts to come together about funding. And I'm wondering, did anybody else get the same email?
I don't think
They
I
had a
saw
letter that they were looking for us to sign and join in on. And they're hoping to get all 600-plus school districts to agree to be part of that.
They came today? Over the weekend?
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Tuesday of spring break, I think it was.
yeah. I tagged it to go back to, and today was when I really got a chance to read. So, but we may have more communication. We may talk about that at the next meeting. Okay. Okay, moving on. Item 6, discussion items. The first item under the discussion items is the Apple Distinguished School Award, which we've put on our agenda tonight. As those of you know, we went into a 3-year plan of going to a one-to-one initiative with all of our 6th through 12th graders with Apple MacBooks. And to explain more about our successes, Mr. Pempen, I think I'd turn to you to introduce.
Sure. I'm pleased to announce, excuse me, that we're the recipient of the Apple Distinguished School Award, and we would have loved to be able to give this award to the entire district, and we appealed to Apple to do that, but unfortunately they were only able to choose one school. And I have to tell you that was a difficult choice, because when we took this on, we really felt that it was a district-wide initiative and that all of our teachers, all of our staff worked very hard to put this initiative into place. And once again, we credit the board for having the courage and the initiative to go forward with this. So I think that at the end tonight, this is the culmination. It's not the culmination, because we're looking at obviously achieving a lot more, but it's just one award that we're receiving tonight as recognition of doing a nice job. And I'm going to introduce now Paula Curry and Cam Miller from Apple. They'll tell you a little bit about the criteria that it took for us to receive this award. And I really believe that this is just the beginning. We have a whole lot more to achieve. So thank you for coming, Paula and Cam, and if you could tell us a little bit about the award.
Thank you, Phil. Good evening. My name is Paula Curry, and this is Camden Miller. We're from Apple, and we're your representatives. And I want to thank the entire district, and I couldn't agree with you more, Phil. We've heard you about this being a district-wide, maybe next year, award. Tonight it is a great award, and I have to say that this award is very difficult to attain. There are only 52 school systems throughout the United States that achieved this award. It is something that we invite you to participate in. We ask you to apply. You have to have an invitation to apply. It's not something that just any school can do and apply. It has nothing to do with the amount of money you spent with Apple. It is absolutely focused on how you educate your kids. How these tools are used in educating your kids. You actually have to be using Apple products for at least a year, at least 12 months, because we want the excitement to die down. We want to understand and learn from you of the criteria we put out, how you are implementing these products and how they're changing the lives of our kids. So we want to thank you for your dedication to education. And when I was watching the little kids introduce themselves, I thought to myself, if I could rewind, I'd like to be a student at Vermillion, because it takes great risk to do what you've done and to give what you've given to these students. And being in the corporate world, I can't tell you how valuable that is for each and every student. And yes, it was a risk, and we're here today to thank you for that. It takes a small army and a village to make this happen. So from Phil to Amy, to Jim, to Sean for coordinating your teams. It's a constant effort to keep updated on this stuff. But tonight we'd like to recognize Heidi Riddle and Lisa Murray for your work in making this where we say where it hits the streets and where it happens within your schools, and how you've changed the lives of your kids. So thank you all very much.
I'll open the box. I said it's the biggest laptop I could ever wish for. A nice plaque, and we'll display it proudly. But I certainly cannot take credit for this award. This award really goes to our students and staff who absolutely took everything that they had and made this happen. If it weren't for our teachers who we call train the trainers, who make things happen for other teachers, and our students as well, we would not be able to receive this award. And I think you would agree too, Lisa.
I agree, yes.
Read it out loud.
Oh, I can't read it. My bifocals don't go that way.
Recognized as an Apple Distinguished School for Innovation, Leadership, and Educational Excellence, 2011-2012.
And we will continue with that excellence as we move forward. But I'd like to recognize a couple people here tonight who will actually show you and tell you exactly how the initiative has benefited them. So with that, I'd like to introduce our senior, Stephen Graziano. Stephen has a few words, and he might even plug our Fine Arts Fair as well.
We could just get the Fine Arts Fair out of the way. And so the Fine Arts Fair is April 26th from 4 to 7 at the Board of Education here. There's going to be a live auction at 4 p.m. and they're going to be selling like student-made art such as pendants, paintings, ceramics, and all that fun stuff. The consumer science class is actually going to be auctioning off designer cakes that they are making at the high school. The high school band and choir will be playing live music, and I actually have a few envelopes for you guys. Yeah. Right. So I was asked by Mrs. Schneid, who leads the art program, to come here. In her class, mainly, we've been using Illustrator and Photoshop, which has been really useful considering I plan to go to college for graphic design, which is it's a technology field pretty much. And before the Macs were introduced to the high school, I had no idea how to use any of this. Like, I had basic internet knowledge and nothing past that, and it's helped me tremendously, and I'm going to be pretty far ahead when it comes time to go to college. So in Mrs. Schneid's class, we blog on blogspot.com to critique our own artworks and sometimes other people's artworks so that we can get ahead and learn from our mistakes and move forward. It also incorporates reading and writing into a field that would normally not include it. In other classes, such as my science class, we use a program called Brain Honey, which is where we can do our assignments and take tests online. It helps teachers to grade it easier, and we can do our assignments at home. So like if we need a worksheet, we can just go on the internet and get it. So we always have what we need. Currently in my English class, we take journal entries, which basically we get a bunch of random prompts, and we have to write on these prompts, and it's usually about current issues. All right. Other than that, we use them for taking notes, essays, and a lot of students don't have internet access at home or computers, and this really helps those who might not have them otherwise.
That's it. Well, thank you, Stephen, very much. And I'd like to introduce our teacher, Maria Reynes, who is our Spanish teacher, and her student, Bear Myers.
good afternoon, or good night, or good evening, I'm sorry. Yeah, the way that we use technology in Spanish, okay, I can go on and on and on and on. We use Brain Honey, we use the electronic book where the kids can see, hear, and repeat. You know, it's my class is very technological, right? And they also, we use Brain Honey. They do assignments through the internet. They take tests, quizzes, and everything. But my kids also learn to use the tools that we have from Mac. And one of the assignment was to create their own productions, on song and video, on the lesson gustar, which means to like. And many of the students did a very good job. And I want to, Santiago is in Spanish, right? Bear. Okay, Bear Myers to show the great job that he did expressing the verb gustar. So go ahead and hook this. 100% your production, right?
Yep.
Hola Santiago, ¿cómo estás?
Hola Raimundo, muy bien. ¿Y tú?
Bien.
¿Qué te gusta?
¿Qué me gusta?
Me gusta. Me gusta comer pollo, me gusta comer taco, no me gusta comer pescado.
Me gustan los deportes, fútbol y básquetbol. Yo juego deportes todos los días.
Me gusta correr y beber y comer. No me gusta estudiar ni leer.
Me gusta naranja, rojo y verde, pero mi color favorito es azul. ¿Tú terminas?
No, también me gusta chicas bonitas.
Chicas bonitas, nos gustan las chicas bonitas. Chicas bonitas, nos gustan las chicas bonitas.
Me gusta la vida en Rivera.
Yeah, would you like to talk about the things that you learned by?
Sure.
Okay, just raise your hand to me.
All right. In Spanish class, we take quizzes on the computer, and we get our results back right away, so we don't have to wonder what grade we got or anything like that. And we can do our vocabulary straight off the computer and finish it faster than normal. And we can take tests and even do our homework on it. So it really helps us out a lot.
Thank you.
So as you can see, that's only two examples of how we are using the one-to-one initiative at the high school. And I know, as Phil said, our elementary schools are using the iPod Touches. The middle school is using a combination of the laptops and the iPod Touches. And we are honored to accept the Apple Award. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Our next item on the agenda, under discussion items, is an Order of State Award. And I'm going to step up to the podium, and I'm going to ask Amy Hendricks, Kathy Johnson, Loretta Farnham to join me. And the reason is every year when our audit comes back, it has been a perfect audit for longer than I've been on the board. And they've been doing this work flawlessly for a long time. I think in the world of government, we're all looked at as if we don't know what we're doing when it comes to managing money. But here at Vermilion Schools, I think we take pretty doggone great pride in our fiduciary responsibility, but more importantly, that we have a staff that executes this flawlessly. We're presenting to them, via the Auditor of State, an award given to us by the Office of the Auditor, David Yost, and this is an award for exemplary financial reporting in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles for the year 2011, and correct me if I'm wrong, even though we've had perfect audits, we've never had this award.
That's correct.
And therefore, I want to make sure we recognize these three and tell everyone out there in the Vermilion community, this is amazing because through the last 6 years, those of us who served, we know how every year we're cutting staff, and they're making this happen with a lot fewer people and time, hours, than it ever was done with in the past. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome. There's a letter here from David Yost, Auditor of State, but it's more than I think I'm going to take the time to read. We'll post it someplace
We can put it on
here
the
in the
website.
office
Yep.
and on the website so you can see.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Next item on the agenda is number 3. Drug Task Force, Mr. Pimpin.
I just wanted to congratulate Amy and her team because I'm here firsthand every day witnessing how hard Kathy and Loretta and Amy work, and they do a terrific job. And as Sid said, Mr. Jordan said, and the board has said, that's quite an honor to have a good audit like that. Not just a good audit, but a perfect audit. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick note about the Drug Task Force. I want to thank the Photojournal for putting an ad out. This is the advertisement again for the community event that's coming up on Monday, the 23rd. And so I just wanted to bring that to the community's attention again tonight, that we are going to be having a meeting and that we would like to invite the whole community. We've gotten a lot of businesses in town that have said that they will be coming, and so we're anticipating that this is going to be a well-attended event, and there will be a presentation given, and I think it will be worthwhile for you to come this evening, and you'll be hearing quite a bit of useful information as a community. And so once again, just a way for us to get the word out at this board meeting about the meeting. So we hope to see you there.
Time, is that it?
7 p.m. at the high school. That's April 23rd, 7 p.m. in the auditorium. Then, you want me to just go ahead to the next item?
Yeah, go ahead to the next item, number 4, Alice Training.
The next item on the agenda is ALICE training. Our principals recently and our administrative team were briefly trained, not completely trained in ALICE. And I'm going to let Dan Shoup tell you what that acronym is. He's our SRO officer. He's going to come up this evening, and we are proposing that we're going to do an early release on May 18th. So I'm letting the board know that I'd like to announce to the community and to our parents so that they could start to plan for that evening, for that event. Dan, I don't know if you had a chance to talk with the trainers on that to see whether that would work or not.
I did.
Will that work?
Yeah, they're fine with that.
Terrific. So May 18th would be the early release day. We'll get the times out exactly as to what that will look like in all the schools, but I just wanted to preliminarily announce that. And Mr. Shoup is going to tell us what the acronym ALICE stands for, and this is a very important safety training that Mr. Shoup has agreed to spearhead for us.
I'm excited about this program. ALICE is basically a program that gives our students and our staff more options. Right now we just have the lockdown. If lockdown is breached, they're going to be taught how to react to that. ALICE is an acronym, and it stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. Alert, right now we do a lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. Everybody goes in lockdown, that's it. ALICE gives a little bit more information to that. If we have an active shooter or a violent intruder, you just add more information. Where's he at, if we know him, what's his name, where's he going, what's he look like, what's he wearing. That gives everybody in the school over the loudspeaker, it gives everybody in the school an idea of where he's at, who he is, and where he's going. The lockdown, right now the kids go crowd into one corner, they lay down, and that's it. ALICE improves that a little bit better. If you picture a bowling alley with all your pins down there, you roll one ball down there and get a strike. If you separate those pins 10 feet, it's hard to get a strike with one ball. So that's what they do. They spread the kids out around the room. They give the kids something to throw. In case that lockdown is breached, somebody comes into the room, they can defend themselves. They'll be taught how to take them down, how to secure them, how to clear the room. Real-time updates. This involves the video system along with somebody watching it so they can track where the suspect's going. So everybody in the building knows. So if the intruder's in hallway 100, they're going to say, hallway 100, intruder there. That gives 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 hallways. They can get out of the building. The evacuate, we're going to have 2 zones, one in the rear for the high school, one in the rear and one in the front. That'll coincide with responding units. Our captain and our chief will go to those zones to make sure they're clear. Again, I'm just excited about the program. I think it's going to go well, and tentatively May 18th, right?
Correct. Mr. Shoup, we appreciate that you're willing to take on the extra responsibility. And you mentioned one thing that I will be coming to the board with. We've been taking stock of the security cameras that we have in our buildings, and like some of the other things that I'll be talking about this evening, we are going to need to be making some investments in keeping up and with the equipment that we have and with the condition of things. As old as our schools are, sometimes you need to look at the things that you have and see what needs attention. And one of the things that's very important to us is our safety, and I know that the equipment that we had within our buildings do need some attention. It's not going to be a major or a huge investment, but it's a very important investment. We need to make sure that our principals and our police force, if we have any issues, can access film, video, just be able to look at the TVs and the cameras that we have and make sure that we've got clear recordings and clear pictures. God forbid if something happens, but we want to make sure that we don't have outdated equipment. So we went through the buildings. I'll be coming to the next board meeting, and we will be looking at some of that equipment and we will need to upgrade some of that, and I'm sure that the board would agree that that's got to be a high priority because of what's just recently happened in Chardon. And so thank you once again. We look forward to, and we'll get more information out on the 18th about the meeting, and the teachers will get trained in that on that day, and students will, they'll need to be released early, and parents will have to make some arrangements for that day, but we believe that it's very worthwhile. That's the only way that we knew how to be able to do this before the school year closed down. We felt that we wanted to get this up and running before the next school year starts. So we felt that by closing down this school year, giving our teachers some information that they're going to need to start the next school year was critical. Safety can't be underestimated. And so this will be an excellent opportunity for Officer Shoup and for us to go over those things with our staff and with our teachers. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions on Alice? Or?
Do the students get trained as well, or just,
They
sure.
will eventually, but first we want to train the staff. So the first step in this process is to make sure our staff understands what this is about before we get the students involved.
We've given a presentation, though, already to the students, correct, about this?
No, we have not up until this time. It's only been, the presentation has come first through Oberlin College. It was brought to our attention through the security officers at Oberlin College that have training in this. So they brought it first to just the administrators. Then we reached out to Officer Shoup, and we wanted to get this going through the staff and then the students. So far that's been the timeline.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Next item on our agenda is number 7, public participation. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the board with comments. Mr. Smith.
I'll make this short. I would just like to congratulate the Academic Challenge team. I was so proud Saturday night when I saw that, and if I'm correct, they didn't miss a single question, which the other schools could not claim. So I am so proud.
I was there. I don't remember that.
I was there, I don't remember it either.
Well, I couldn't back it up to see, but it seemed to me that they just did a beautiful job, and maybe their competition wasn't so good, but anyway, they were just outstanding.
Actually, one of the teams was Rocky River, and they were very good. Were they not, Mrs. Jessen? But
Actually,
it's great. Thank you.
I think you should say we ended up in the top 10 of the academic challenge overall for the whole season.
That's great.
Very good.
I got a call from a community member on Saturday night, all excited at 8 o'clock, and he says, "Hey, I just got to tell you, did you watch Academic Challenge?" And I says, "Yeah, I watched it a month and a half ago, but I wasn't able to tell him."
Thank you again. We love it, Mr. Smith, when the comments are positive like that. Thank you.
Nice job, Becky, Jessen, and your team. Terrific.
Our next item is agenda item 8, a report, starting with our treasurer's report. Number 1, review the March 31st, 2012 financial reports.
The first item you have in your packet is our forecast comparison. We have received all of our real estate tax settlements at this point in time, that being our local tax revenue and the public utility personal property, which is different than the regular personal property tax, are included in that. We are about $15,700 below the estimate of where we thought we would be at this point for the year. There may be some small payments that do come in between now and the end of the year for manufactured home tax and some of those from, I believe, Lorraine County yet. On unrestricted grants and aid, which is our state aid, we are $78,000 ahead for the year, but this particular month we were $30,000 below estimate. The state still has not finalized our funding for the current year off of the October student data. So we have been all over the place on those payments, and so that puts us in a position where if we have to have adjustments one way or the other, it's going to be very late in the year, and those are going, so that will compound the impact of those. In fact, this most recent payment, I think I reported last Friday, we were short all of our $72,000 in special education transportation money. It turned out that there was an error in processing in Columbus, just the districts alphabetically between TR and WY, I believe. So we were lucky and fell into that. So it makes it a little precarious to forecast as the year goes on. We also haven't received our property tax allowance yet. Those are the homestead and rollback distributions that will be coming from the state that correspond with those tax settlements. Our expenses, again, with our utilities for the winter, those have held steady. So overall, for the year, we are ahead of our budget by $621,000. However, we have outstanding obligations of nearly $2 million, and overall, we're projected to spend about $220,000 more than we take in by the end of the year when all the transactions are finalized. And we also have attached the financial fund summary by funds that gives you the progress report of where we are with all of our areas of funds for the year. Currently, we have an overall collected balance, grants, including grants, student activities, cafeteria, and operating monies, permanent improvement, $30,051,490. I'm sorry, $23,676,136. Wrong columns there today. And I do not have all the investment statements, so we'll finalize those next month.
Any questions? If not, the next item 2 is to recommend a resolution to accept the following donations. $50 to the Crystal Beach Endowment Fund from Robert and Nancy Kyle in honor of the 50th wedding anniversary of Tom and Carol Ryan, and $100 to the John Mosley Memorial Scholarship Fund from Diane Mosley.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I don't remember the Crystal Beach Endowment Fund. Is that something relatively new?
Within the last 5 years, and Tom Ryan and some members of his family established that. They had written a book about the history of the Crystal Beach Music Hall and the activities there, and had a lot of historic photographs in that. And the intent of that fund is to promote big band music, that type of performance and education in the district.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I would have guessed 3 years, but
Yeah.
in this particular case, Robert and Nancy Kyle, Bob Kyle is a good friend, and he plays in our community band. He plays clarinet. He's been doing it for a heck of a lot of years, so it makes sense. It's associated with music. We thank them very much. And Diane Mosley, giving $100. Diane is a regular partner every year in volunteering to judge speech and debate. She's been doing it a long time, and just love her. We thank these people very much, contributing every month. Thank you to the people who donate and give for these scholarships. Please call the roll.
Mr. Reaney?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mrs. Innes?
Yes.
And Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our next item 3, recommend a resolution to approve participation in Ohio Schools Council Waste and Recycling Service Bid Program as follows. Whereas the Vermillion Board of Education wishes to advertise and receive bids for waste and recycling services from July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2015 through the Ohio Schools Council Waste and Recycling Program. Whereas there is no fee to participate in the Ohio Schools Council 2012-2015 Waste and Recycling Program, therefore be it resolved that the Vermillion Local School District Board of Education wishes to participate and authorizes the Ohio Schools Council to advertise and receive bids on behalf of said board as per the specifications submitted for the cooperative purchase or of waste and recycling services for the period from July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2015. It is understood that there is no fee to participate in this program. I will move.
Second.
Would you give us an update on this particular one?
Sure. This would be the second time that the district has participated in this program, and while there is not necessarily competition for providers of that service in the area, we were able the last time to take advantage of, without changing providers, the buying power of all of the greater Cleveland area in negotiating those rates. So we saved roughly $1,000 a year, but when it's a no-cost program, that's definitely worth the time to take the resolution and participate.
So the school council advertises and receives bids on our behalf then, but there, like you say, there really isn't much competition here. Do they must do that statewide? Is that what they do?
They actually, it's regional in the Northeast Ohio area. We're probably one of the further west reaches of the territory, and what's covered in the pricing is the Lorain County area, but most of it is the greater Cleveland area that's included.
Any other questions? Discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mr. Reaney?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our next item is B, Superintendent's Report, and the first item there is replacement of the football field. At our last meeting, we voted to authorize going out to write specifications, and this would be the time to report on that.
Before we talk about the specifications, and I ask Mr. Calatrulio and Mr. Lutz to come up, I'll just talk a little bit about the need. I alluded to or talked a little bit about the need with our school security system to have to update some of the things that we do. When you asked me to go out and get the specifications for the field, the thought process behind that was that no attention has been given, unfortunately, to the field for, I'm going to say, a minimum of 15 years, and I think I'm being conservative with that number. Sure. And what we're starting to experience, not starting to, we have been experiencing for as long as I've been here, which is going on 4 years now, is we're starting to pile up student injuries. And when it starts to become a liability for our athletes, that's when I really start to worry about it, and it becomes then my duty as the superintendent to make a recommendation after we gather the facts and the information. If you look at the field today, you'd say there's no need to do anything with it because it's lush and green. But all you need to do is take a walk on that field, and you'll be lucky if you could make it from one end of the field to the other without severely twisting an ankle, because there's a lot of ruts, a lot of holes, and the field, which Mr. Calatrulio will explain a little bit later on, has a crown to it. When they first did this field, it was okay just to start with, but they never really did a bang-up job with it because the crown was never really done quite properly. Mr. Lutz has been our maintenance person of the field for quite a time now, and he's going to be able to explain some of the technicalities about the field. We've relied quite a bit on him, Mr. Calatrulio and I have, to go out when we're putting these bid specifications together to ask companies a lot of questions about what needs to be done. and Mr. Colatrulio will get into those details now. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Colatrulio and to Mr. Lutz. They've worked very hard at putting those bid specifications together for companies. We actually have pricing ready tonight, and it's going to be up to the board, though, what direction we're going to want to go after hearing what Mr. Colatrulio and Mr. Lutz have to say about the details. So, Mr. Colatrulio and Mr. Lutz, if you want to go ahead and fill us in on the details.
Thank you, Mr. Pepin. I'll ask you guys to each take a copy of this information. You know, it's interesting as you start doing this kind of work and you're looking at everything, as Mr. Pepin said, you got a lot of questions. You start asking questions, and one question leads to another question. And if there's one thing that I found out, there's no answers as such. There's just more questions. And you keep trying to gather as much information as possible. And I was just telling Mr. Lutz here a couple minutes ago, it seems like everyone's been doing this for about 30 years, 25 years, and they all have got answers. And so I go home tonight for about 10 minutes, and I walk in, and we had already scheduled this, but there was a gentleman in there showing us windows, and I said, how long have you been doing this? He said, 30 years. And I said, that's just about the way things have been going right now. Everybody's been doing it for that length of time. And you know, what it comes down to then is being able to look at the information and make a judgment call about what is we're willing to accept and how that quality meets with fiscal responsibility. The list of questions that you see there represent a lot of time and a lot of thought in a lot of different directions. And I guess as we were asking ourselves at the beginning, what were the things that we need to tackle? What are the needs of the school district when it comes to that football field? And obviously, Mr. Pepin just went through some of the history of it. Then we started going into other questions such as, should it be seeded? Should it be sod? Should we have irrigation?
Should be a purple to astroturf.
Should be purple, yeah. That's an older question, no question about that one. And I think, you know, the drainage system got questioned. Certainly we looked at the track complex itself and looked at the surrounding facility. And I think as we did, we were asking ourselves questions about everything. If we're trying to get to quality, and if we're trying to do that in a fiscally responsible manner. Those are the kinds of things that we're concerned about in making these decisions or going forward. As I said, with anything else, you get a tremendous amount of different answers and responses. Probably the very first one that we looked at was whether to go with sod or the seed. There is a window where seed becomes a possibility. But quite honestly, when we talked with professional people, and by that I'm referring to people who put in football fields, you can ask everybody, and they all have different answers to the topic of whether it should be seed or sod. But when you start asking questions of professional people, by that people who put in football fields for a living, the answer came back sod. And it did not matter whether we're talking after the season's over, which is typically the time you seed, or if we're talking now. You know, obviously the window of any opportunity there for seeding is gone if you're looking at now. And sod was the answer. But the professional companies, and you have to ask for references, which we did. You have to ask for certifications, which we did. You have to ask for where have you worked? What have you spent time with? And it's funny because a lot of them will say, I've been in this school system, but when you start asking whether you've been in the school system or you've done a playground or you've done a baseball field or you've done a football field, the answers are different. But it's like anything else. You have to ask till you ask the right question. And I found that out as well. It's not only a matter of asking questions, it's asking the right questions. And, you know, I think we've had, as Mr. Pepin said, a lot of people involved in this. There's been a lot of support. So that we could always get the right information. And I'm very proud to be able to work with these people because I was asking as many questions of you guys as I was of the companies, because every time we came up with an answer to something, that would lead to something more that we had to ask and question. So, you know, I went so far as one company said that right now they would not even, if we considered seed, they didn't want any part of it. I asked the other professional company, they told us the same thing. We don't want any part of it if we're going to go in that direction. So a lot of what we looked at, and again, it got into irrigation, got into the field, and there are some other questions that as we were asking, and we'll kind of go into them as we're looking. I guess the first one that we wanted to look at was the need that I think, you probably came up with it. If we're looking at the field itself, how can we maintain that that complex is going to be in the same condition that we install? And what do we need to do to make sure that happened? And that got into the question of irrigation and drainage. So if you want to talk a little bit about those kinds of things, that would be great.
One thing is with the irrigation system is greatly needed out there. It's the way I'm watering now is with 2 water hydrants, and they're 1-inch hydrants, and I have 2 cannons, and I go out manually every 2 hours and move them down and down and down. Very inefficient, very, very inefficient. By going with an irrigation system, you'd probably cut cost in water probably 30 to 50%. Instead of running 2 heads for 2 hours in one area, you'd be running 6 heads for a half hour. And you'd be targeting. There wouldn't be over-spraying the area. There wouldn't be dry areas from wind, because I'm using cannons and trying to shoot the water so far. It'd be more concentrated in the area. So the savings of the irrigation system alone will basically pay itself off in water usage within probably 3 to 4 years. And the life expectancy of irrigation systems usually 20 plus years. So with minor repairs of heads and whatnot. But to do sod or seed, either way, one of the problems that we looked at was, okay, if we're redoing the field, I can't get enough water on the field using those 2 hydrants. And either way, if sod or seed, we needed an irrigation system to be able to keep the field watered. Sod cannot dry out, especially within the first year. What will happen is the edges will dry out from the sun baking them, and then all of a sudden you'll look at the field and it look like a big checkered board because you'll see all these dead lines through it. And then also to get the roots to here and to the native soil, you also need that irrigation system. One of the main points for my aspect of redoing the field was that if we're doing it, that we'd need an irrigation system either way that we try to go at it.
There was a tremendous amount of technicalities that we got into. One was the water pressure that was coming over, making sure we had a line that was going to be accessible to the needs there. Irrigation, every time that we started thinking we had an idea of the direction we were going to go, then someone else would throw out another interesting question, for instance, of whether we wanted it to be set up going sideline to sideline or you wanted it set up end zone to end zone. And again, everyone with 35 years of experience all have different answers to the question, and we found ourselves pretty much going with the professionals, the people who, again, put in the football fields and the football complexes. But those kind of questions, I put down questions. I really, the intention is not to go through every of them, but just to think of things that, at the point in time you don't believe those are a question, but they are. What type of sod? I mean, sod was sod to me, and then the more I started asking, I found out there was different types of sod. And what was the standard? What was the expectation? You got into temperatures and climates. Was there a difference in Michigan sod and its ability to handle the weather and the climate if it's coming down here that long trip from Michigan to Ohio? And, what do you get into there, and where's the sod coming from? And, I mean, all that kind of stuff became questions for consideration. Once we put the sod down in its format, we wanted to make sure we had a maintenance program in place that would maintain it, sustain it, keep it growing, avoid any kind of diseases and any needs that we would have in that direction. And consequently, when we talked to them, we got all companies to agree to giving us maintenance for a year on the facility, which originally had started out that the maintenance program was going to be something that we were going to have to pay for. And the companies came around to saying that they would take care of it for us because we're concerned that, we have that going for forever. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about what it would look like if we didn't put down sod in the end zone, that if we put seed down there. Again, trying to look at what was fiscally responsible and also is going to be aesthetic. It's going to look good. We're going to be proud of it. Everybody's going to come to that field and feel as though that a good job was done. And we wanted to make sure that the people that were involved were going to do the work themselves. It was not going to be subcontracted out in order to take care of it. And, I mean, that's a big piece of what we were looking at there. The sod that will be taken off of the field, the intention is to put it in the stadium parking lot and to be reused to fill in spaces on campus that need dirt, in addition to some drainage area problems that we have. We hope that sod can be reused, and we've been guaranteed that it would be for uses that we have along the campus. Everything that we were attempting to ask as far as taking care of the track, trucks going across and all that, the people we are dealing with have been doing this for a long, long time. And in fact, if anything, we're surprised at some of their ideas. As far as trucks going across the track, they got an idea out of another area in western United States where they'll put down a mulch bed over the track and the trucks will go across that. And they said that that's been, to their way of thinking, the best way of doing it, and it's something that we're not used to thinking like. But again, a professional company has got professional background, professional ideas in terms of what to do. So, you know, that kind of thing was very important to us. The whole irrigation system, we found ourselves looking at, we knew we had a 2-inch line. Was that sufficient to do what we needed? And it was important for that to be the case, again, to try to make the kind of decisions that not only reflected now, but in the future, because we hope down the line that if the irrigation is done properly, it will lead to the opportunities to irrigate other fields we have on the complex, and that was what was important to us as well. So again, everything that we did and what we were looking at was not only for now, but it was the future. A side note that came out of discussions when you're looking at the field and what we wanted to do with it was the concept, because probably the biggest wear and tear of the field is the sidelines. And if you look at our sidelines, in addition to there being a drainage issue because of the swells, there was also the issue of, because of the amount of personnel that are standing over there, there was a big concern of wear there. And we, by accident, just kind of started talking about synthetic turf to go the length of the sidelines from about the 25 to the 25. And we got prices on 7 foot by 150, which is the area, or a 12 by 150 synthetic surface to help with the wear and tear there, and the maintenance. We have been assured that schools have done this. We've been given the same kind of pricing on synthetic in that area as you would see at some of the neighboring stadiums. Again, with the idea that, will that help us? And they're giving us, I think, somewhere around an 8-year guarantee for that particular area, because that receives the heaviest, exposure, I guess would be the best way to put it. So,
have we ever been able to grow grass in that area? There's no grass there now.
Well, you can grow it until the season starts.
Yeah.
It's bare now, though.
Yeah. I mean, like if I went out and reseeded it now, I mean, it would fill in. But the problem is the compaction. That's one of the biggest things on football fields or any sports field is compaction is your biggest enemy. And when you have 40 players plus coaches and everything else on that sideline walking back and forth for 2 hours, and basically that field's used 5 to 6 days a week, that area is highly compacted. And for grass to grow and grow properly, it has to have air into the soil. And when it's compacted, there's no air, and when there's no air, it's just literally impossible to grow grass. So, I mean, I can aerate it now and do everything and seed it and get it growing, but usually by 3rd to 4th week into the season, anything that was done is gone.
Probably one of the things that's the most noticeable, if you go out on the football field, you know, as Mr. Pempin said, it's not always easy to see from a distance the holes and the ruts and all that, but if you walk on that field, it's quite evident without taking much more than 3 or 4 steps, especially in certain areas, the drop-offs and all that. But I think in addition to that, the crown was something we actually took a rope string and took it from one end to the other and noticed how much of a difference we had off of the grass, and I think I know I was very surprised how much of a difference there was. But there's really, that crown needed to be at a certain percentage, and you know, you can talk about that as you want, but that was another piece of it to us, to making sure that the companies were understanding what we believed was the proper crown.
On college and pro football fields, usually it's a 1% grade drop, okay? Meaning that for every 100 feet, there should be a 1 foot drop. The football field being 160 feet, you divide that in half, because you want your grade drop coming from center to the sideline. So from 80 feet from the center to the sideline, there should be somewhere around a 9-inch drop, okay? Ours is somewhere around 15 to 20, depending on where you go on the field. And unfortunately, it's not that it's just the amount. I mean, because the amount, having a higher grade drop like that, it's going to ensure you better runoff. But unfortunately, the way ours is, it's not a gradual drop. We took the string line across, and I know this every time I paint the field, is when I take the string line across, as soon as I come to about where the hash marks are in the field, there's actually about a 7 to 8 inch drop between the string line and the ground. So basically, if this is the string line, the field's peaks up here, and it comes down like this and then comes back up with an 8-inch drop, where it actually should just go straight with the string. And that's actually, it's a hazardous thing too. You know, having that big of a drop and that short of an area for the players, it's really not a good condition to have on a field. And one of the things is also, when it comes to drainage, is since it does go like that, our sidelines are actually higher than where our hashes are. It actually goes under grade to the sideline, so it creates a drainage problem too.
I think a lot of what we found as we looked at everything was that the investigation led to areas of maintenance in many aspects that, you know, as we try to compile the data and the research, you know, as I see it, you know, our responsibility is to present it to you so that you can take a good look at it and determine what you believe is the best course of action. We've got 2 individual groups that are listed within this information that, based on getting at least 3 companies stepping forward with enough information for us to make those kinds of proposals. We've got at least a couple of them here that represent what we believe are quality at a fiscally responsible price.
The North Coast for the irrigation and Malton for the grass.
Correct. Or the sod, right.
So that's what you guys are recommending.
Right. Well, I guess from this standpoint, for your consideration to look at, and, you know, I think we've all had a piece in looking at what we believe is right. I don't think any one of us does this in a vacuum, because that's not the way it's going to work. It's making sure that not only individually we've done our homework, but collectively as a group we've done our homework to feel comfortable with the proposals that are being presented to you tonight.
The questions that you put for discussion, I can honestly tell you that between Mr. Lutz, Mr. Calatrulio, and I, that this is just a small fraction of the questions that we asked. So ask us any questions that you can think of about this, and I think we can answer them. And that's, as Mr. Colatrudis said, we're pretty comfortable with what's on the paper here in terms of the companies and the amount of research that went into this. And the reasoning, again, and rationale is that with our properties, not just this, the roofs, the air conditioners, there's other minor things that I'm going to come to the board with at a future board meeting very soon that I could tell you need to have attention within that stadium, just within that part of our property that we own. We've got a shot put area that needs to have some attention because the wrong type of gravel was put within that area. And
Paving
yeah, you've got some paving issues that are, just like the football field, a liability. If you go right now and try to walk out of the exits of the stadium as you're walking out the inside fence area, there's some rubber mats that are put down there to guard the area for now, but it's very rocky, it's very many crevices in there. That's not the way we really need to have it. The rest of the area is done with asphalt. And asphalt is cheaper than concrete. But those areas, for whatever reason, were never done before I was here. And it needs to be done, because if one of our spectators falls there, we're looking for liability. So this is a similar case, but on a bigger scale.
You're just talking about the gate areas.
By the gate
Which is a
areas.
small area.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say, though, in the big picture of things here, you asked us to go out and take a look and get the specs and to really look to see what we needed to do with this. And this is all about maintaining what we have. Do we want to spend this kind of money? No. But you have to sometimes, just like your own house. There comes a point where you have to give it some attention, whether you like it or not. And you also then have to think about exactly what you want to do long-term to keep it, to maximize the value that you're putting into something. So at this point, as I said, this is only a fraction of the questions that we answered. Fire away with any questions that you have.
I'll start. Believe me, I'm all for this, and I've nothing more that I want to see than to get this project done. Do we have a set of drawings and specifications to do this? Do we have a grading plan, for the field?
They have a plan for the irrigation system. As far as a grading plan, it's done by laser. And if you look at the sheet,
I actually only
stripping and laser crowning.
put a couple pages here.
That's how the work is done, but do we have a drawing telling them what we want the finished product to be? In other words, Bill talked about, having the ideal crown. What's the crown going to be on the field? Is it going to be a 12-inch crown? Is it going to be a 8-inch crown? I mean, a drawing would tell someone that.
Bill, you can answer that.
What we were looking at is a 1.75% drop. 1% being ideal for like college and pro football. We're going with a stronger grade drop so that we have better drainage. The pro fields and that stuff, they use different kind of drainage. They have it going through the field and that stuff. We're basically using runoff as our drainage and still utilizing the tiles that we have on the side of the field. So we're going to raise the field. It's actually going to be lower than what it is right now, but it's going to be a consistent, what it will be is a consistent, like turtle's back. It will be evenly in all directions going at a 1 3/4 grade drop.
What is Maumey's experience in doing that type of grade, laser grading?
Oh, laser grading. I've been to several of their classes. They are a premier sports facility company. I believe, I hope I don't talk out of turn, but I think they are going to be contracting for like the Cincinnati Bengals.
I think that's public.
So, but that's what they do is sports fields. And when it comes to the laser grading, it's basically you set up the laser tripods and the machine does the work. So it's you know, it's.
He said almost everything would be, you know, he said he could pretty much, he's got it down to the point that he could probably use his computer, type in a few things, and everything's going to cut it right there. Honestly, they have done professional.
Let me interrupt 1 second. Tim's question was what was
We
the
don't have a
specific
drawing.
spec?
We don't have a drawing, is what I'm getting at. And it
You
seems to
did
me-
say 1 3/4%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's basically, it's not, I mean, the drawing would be kind of blank except for it would have where it drops, you know, it'd have the circles of it dropping, you know, to the sides. But yeah, the 1 3/4% pretty much explains what the, you know, what the aspect of the field would be.
I would think before we're doing a project of this magnitude, that we would have a drawing of our field, showing the grades, showing everything that's on the field. I mean, we're talking about fixing the track, we're talking about doing a lot of things. I would sure think that it would behoove us to put all this plan together. I mean, I think before we said that we can't run on the inside of our track right now because it's
Inside lane.
you know, because it's just,
The
it's worn
ruts
out.
and
I mean, it would sure make sense to me that we already have Lesko in our employ to get them, or somebody, maybe this, whoever. I wouldn't suggest these guys because they're building the project. I really don't think we should use somebody's spec or drawings that's going to do the work. I mean, that doesn't protect our interests. A lot of these things on here are marked, just an example, damage to unmarked utilities is the responsibility of Vermillion Schools. We need our specs to tell them what their responsibilities are. The school is responsible for proper watering and fertilization. I don't think we really want that. I think we want them to grow the grass, probably to cut it 2 times, and then to turn it over to us once it's already gone through a couple of cuttings, because they're turning it over to our responsibility. If it dies, guys, they're going to tell us that's our responsibility.
Well,
I mean,
and again, the information that I had from it is that as far as the maintenance for 1 year, they're going to provide it. And I realize what you're seeing there, but.
My only point is, we don't have a drawing and set of specifications. We have a proposal from them and a proposal from the irrigation contractor. And believe me, I'm not trying to downplay what you guys have done at all. I know this is a tremendous amount of work, but it seems to me you understand what we want. And it doesn't take that long now to sit down with a consultant and write down what we want. And then, you know, what kind of head store are we going to have? What kind of valves? What kind of heads? What kind of pipe are we using? That's all written in a set of specifications, so that when you have 3 people come and look at it, they're all bidding the exact same thing. You know, did the other 2 guys use class 200 pipe? I'm not exactly sure what that is. It would be described in a set of specifications, how thick the pipe is and so on. They recommended 5 quick couplers, but we're only installing 2. I don't know, I'd like to hear from somebody.
Well,
and again,
let me just say, and I get that point, and I'm not going to disagree with it, but I do want you to understand that as we talk to each one of the individual groups, they would all have differences in terms of what they were going to give. One said a 3-horse motor.
Right.
Somebody else would say a 5.
Exactly.
So then it would come back to us as to what did you base your specifications on? And I want to hear that it's manufactured specifications for the job that we're trying to do. I think from the standpoint, and I hear you, and I'm fine with that, but I think from the football field, we were looking at what the complex looked like. I had more issue, I think, with the irrigation and trying to make sure that we had specifications for that, because whether it was 2-inch pipeline or if they were going to come at it from a different area, we were trying to set it up so that everyone understood that they were dealing with the same set of information. But I understand what you're saying.
I agree with you on the irrigation, but I think field-wise, I think it's a pretty cut and dry. We specify the grade.
I'm sorry it's not. I'm building a field right now, and I've got a spec package that's thicker than we need, to be quite honest. But there's drawings, believe me, there's questions that come up. I know it seems, the reason we probably have the field that we have now is because it was built like this. Again, no disrespect, but when you have a set of specs and you have a set of drawings and everybody's working from the same thing, you get a quality product. If you go ask guys what they think is the best, you're going to get what they think is best, not particularly what's best for you. We need to sit down with a consultant that works for us and tell them what we want, and I believe then have him make a drawing, and it's simple. It can all be on one page probably, because of what we're doing, and have them make a small set of specifications, and then we're good to go.
Tim,
And
I guess my question would be, like, when you're working with this project now, are you building the field from scratch, or is this?
Yes. Well,
or is this
it was an existing field, but they came in and dug well points for the heating system. They put a new heating system, and they used the football field for their piping, for the thermal field. So then they basically stripped the field, drilled the wells, and put it back. I mean, it's
And what are they using the heat for? Another part of
the
their
building,
campus?
for the building.
And they put it underneath their football field?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
All
getting
right.
pretty common.
Okay.
It's a geothermal well field.
I guess what I would wonder, though, on this project is, what would be on a drawing, though, for the football field, if you're saying that it's being laser graded?
Grading is the most important thing.
But how do they,
Because you have to tell him what to shoot his grade to. You tell him what you want. And I mean, I heard Bill say that's ground all four ways. In the football fields I've done, that's not right. It's ground in the middle from sideline to sideline only. I'm not 100% certain, but if I go look at my drawing, it'll tell you.
Is that a professional field or a high school?
This is a high school field that I'm working on now. In the high
Do
school.
they have drainage buried?
Shows
Because
you
did they
shows you
build
the
that from
drainage.
scratch, and they've got something maybe more ornate than we do? Because you've got to remember that this is an old field, very old field, and I don't know how new that one is.
This is a junior high field. It's not really state-of-the-art by any means.
We're not replacing our drainage, so.
No, but
What
maybe
drainage is there?
maybe we should be.
That's the next question that I ask.
We basically have there's four drain tiles on the sidelines. Outside the sidelines are basically about 3 feet off of the track. And that's.
Is it we have those lower impressions on both sidelines.
Yes.
I presume that's the
That's
low
where
point,
they
and the
are.
drain tile's underneath there.
Yes.
Is that drain tile still functioning properly?
Yes, unbelievably great. Yes.
As you and I both know, when we have rain at the weekend events,
Right.
that can be a really soggy zone. I mean,
Well-
I would be suspicious with limited expertise that maybe after this many years, it isn't draining as well as we thought. But-
One of the problems of why that's draining as well, and you'll see the standing water there, is I've put rubber mats over those for protection for the students, so that they don't get hurt in the drain tiles, because they're ceramic drain tiles, with them being so low. The one, actually, I had Mike take a picture of me. I was standing in, Sean took the picture, while I was standing in it, you couldn't see my knees from him standing on the track because it's so low in the ground. So what usually happens is during all the events, I'm usually there. If we have a downpour like that, as soon as I take and pull the rubbers off of the drain tile, they'll empty out within 5 to 10 minutes easily. And so that's where it's basically, when you're seeing that rubber, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Sure.
When you're seeing that standing water and that stuff there, that's usually the restriction of the rubbers that I put over there to protect the students. And in doing these proposals, that's where, once they redid the crown, we'd actually also be raising those drain tiles so that they're at a safe level, and not, 3 foot down into off the sideline.
So you are going to put in new drain tile?
Well, not new drain tile. The drain tile, the existing drain tile there is what we're going to use, but we're going to put extensions on it or raise them
Oh,
higher.
the catch basins, you mean,
Yes,
the
the
drains
catch,
themselves?
exactly, yes.
Okay.
You're doing the labor on that
Yes,
part of
I'd
it.
be doing that.
See, that would be something else. Again, I would think that you'd want someone to establish, not that you couldn't do it, I'm certain you can, but someone to establish elevations for those in relation to the ground in the field, and where, it just makes sense to spend a little bit of money up front to get a good set of specifications and a drawing before we go forward with this. I really believe that.
I agree with Tim. I think my concern, even before he spoke, was you said you had 3 different companies and you chose this, but my understanding, again, I'm not that qualified, but that you would set up your specs and then give each person, so they're bidding on the same thing, so we're comparing apples to apples, not what A thinks and B thinks and C thinks, and well, maybe B knows more than C, or I think we want to, if you're going to do something, take your time and do it right, too. Or, I think like Sid or someone said, you're going to end up down the road, not too far down the road, with problems again. So if you're going to invest this kind of money, let's do it right. Let's not just kind of get our ducks in a row, make sure that we're comparing apples and apples, and do the best that we can fiscally responsibly, he said.
We're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks again, right? I mean, believe me, I'm not trying to delay this whatsoever. Let's talk to Lesko or whoever you think, and I'd be happy to get in on that conversation with you. And let's talk about what we need to go forward, what would make sense.
I guess the problem that we had with this is that you try to do everything as inexpensively as you can. And we, with the knowledge that we had, did our best to put a specification sheet together ourselves by asking questions from companies, calling them first and saying, and talking to Bill, because Bill is our resident expert, and we listened to what Bill had to say about the field and about sod versus seed, and God knows once how many questions were asked, once again, not just from Bill, but from Bill was there as we got these companies on the phone to try to become educated and knowledgeable about this. We then put together what we thought was our own specification sheet. But if you all believe that it needs to be more detailed than what we have and more professional or more authorized, then we understand. But I could tell you that we did our best, I believe, with the.
And I'm not here trying
I know you're
to
not
knock you down
criticizing. I get it.
whatsoever.
I understand. But I'm just telling you what I felt we tried to do. So maybe just to explain a little bit more how we did come up when we sent out a specification sheet to the contractors, because we did, and it doesn't look exactly like this, because this says proposal for irrigation system, for example. It said on a sheet, and Mike, I don't know if you have that within your packet there, but there was a list of exact specifications that we asked for from the companies.
Models and model
Well,
numbers of pumps.
See, and then that's more detailed than I guess I would have
But
expected
I
that we would have
really
had to
think
do to
if
say
you're
a
gonna-
model number, because
I really think if you're going to spend this kind of money, that you want to do that you
Yeah.
want somebody telling you what kind of booster pump you want.
here's
you
where,
need.
here's
I
where I
think-
guess my question would come though. Okay, if you go to Lesko or somebody like that, how are they gonna know what model pump, because they don't do that for a living themselves?
Well, they probably have a consultant, I mean.
So
that-
they consult with
sure.
someone else.
Or they they might say, you know what, this really isn't for us. Go work with this company they probably have sets of specs already written. If they've done high school football fields, they already have, a high school football field is 120 yards long.
How can you automatically select model numbers in a bid? Is it now it eliminates all of the other competition?
No, because they'll have 3 manufacturers. They'll have, I don't know if, Toro, Rainbird, a Toro model
Toro,
number.
Hunter.
Yeah.
You know, they'll have
I mean,
a model for each one.
I've seen many specifications that have
And they-
exactly that.
On an
It would
OSFC
say, like,
project, they have to have
Three or
three.
four
They have to
manufacturers,
have
your
three.
choice of one of these four
They have to
companies
give
and
you
models.
three.
So you would give them the options of what.
Yeah, you'd
that's
give
where
them the
you're going.
option, but then tell them in your reply, you're telling
And
us
that's
which
how you
one.
get three bidders too, because you'll get a Toro, whatever, you know the names of them, Rainbird, I see
The
here.
the question is, how close do you
Yeah.
guys think we are from what you did to what Tim is saying? I mean, can we take
I don't
what
think
you've
we're
done
that far
and
off.
maybe
No,
just,
it's very
you
close.
just
It's
tomorrow
very-
call Lesko and say,
We
can
know
you
what
take
we
this
want.
and put it into
There
a
has
form
been-
that is standardized?
Yeah, and what I would hope that they would tell us is that we didn't do all of this work in vain, that we saved money
Yes.
by doing
Absolutely.
this.
And-
Because that was
absolutely.
our original intention. If we
And it sure looks like you're going to end
You
up
are-
there.
you
So
have.
I think
You
what
have.
we're saying is, at last month's meeting, what we did was vote on a resolution to go forward to investigate and write these specs. And it was my guess that today we were going to be looking at the specs and then deciding from the knowledge of what you've gained and what input you had, that we would be discussing, is this now a request for proposal or is this a bid? And that procedurally is how we've done all of these things that are over a certain dollar amount. And I think that, I mean, just through hearsay as we've gone along, the dollar amount on this project was higher than the amount that allows us to just go forward. Therefore,
That's what I was gonna ask.
It was gonna
Do
be
we-
our
we
decision
do have
here.
to go out to bid for this?
We actually have a written opinion from our construction council at Bricker and Eckler that because we are not improving or constructing a school building, that we would not be subject to the competitive bid requirements that would normally be in place. If, for example, we were putting on a roof or remodeling a building, they said that they had cases and had been successful with that way of moving forward on similar types of projects.
and I think every board member should have been privy to that because in our weekly
I
review.
think I remember seeing that.
Mrs. Hendricks has shared that opinion, that legal opinion with us so that we knew it was coming.
And we did advertise and get the qualifications in for several design firms in that design file. So we've met that compliance criteria, and I know Lesko is one of the firms that did submit those. So we have all of those in a file. In fact, I think Denise Silsky has all of those together in a file. So if we were to look, there may even be a landscape architect in there, for example. I don't know. I leafed through them when they came in, but just put them in the file.
Well, in this particular case, to do this to prevent injuries next year, because I know I've walked the field many times over the last 7, 8 years, it desperately has a problem. But from a timeline standpoint, to do this the way that Tim's suggesting, is it possible, do you believe, to take what knowledge you've gained, get maybe Lesko's opinion or either of the others, and then take it right from there to the next step, and we can pre-authorize that next step here tonight? That's kind of for the sake of speed.
Yeah, that's what I didn't hear the first time, quite honestly, was that you authorized us to go out and spend money to put a proposal together. And maybe that's my misunderstanding to some degree, that we should have went out and just from the start got a consulting company to put together a professional proposal that would have done that. I'm confident that we have done a lot of the legwork. We give this now as the next step to a company. They'll tighten it up and they'll do whatever they think needs to happen next, and then I'd like to be able to bring it back to the next board meeting for the recommendation and approval, if you're comfortable with that.
I am.
And do we, at this point, want to say that it's based on our our dollar threshold where we're getting 3 bids? Not 3 bids, 3 prices.
We would have to have three quotes because it exceeds $4,000 to do that. So that's our requirement. Yeah, or you can go through a sealed bid procedure, voluntarily too.
If we voluntarily went through a sealed bid,
that would be like a 3-week type of a time frame.
To bid the field, to work on the field, you mean?
that would be how long, do you think?
About 3 weeks.
That changes the complexion completely if we did that.
You've got how many quotes?
So-
We've got 3.
Well, we can get them to, I mean, you could get those guys to bid it based on the new spec and drawing or whatever it is we're going to do. That's all I mean.
Well, let me just interject that it's some of the things you got, I don't know, consideration here is, I mean, do you want synthetic sideline? Or do you want, I mean, for every look, you can have a different look. And I guess
you can put that in as an alternate. Alternate A is provide the price to install synthetic sidelines in lieu of grass.
That's what I would recommend.
They would
in the
say,
I just want to
specification,
make sure I
itemize it.
understand.
add
Right.
$4,000. Oh, that's worth it. Add $40,000. We can't do that.
And it sounds like you already separated the irrigation, but what you said, Bill, about the length of time for it to pay for that, even if it's double that makes sense financially. But still, it should be written in. So the bottom line is, are we as a board going to tonight say we want this to be bid, or do we want to just have request for proposal?
So if we put on an RFP, we're still going to get 3 prices, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's an RFP, we're then by our own policy getting 3 and.
It's semantics, I think, at that point,
and-
really.
They're just not sealed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't go through
I mean, there is debate through the years. If you make it a sealed bid, will that lower prices?
We could put in our statement in RFP that sealed prices are requested to come to the treasurer's office. I mean, at a certain time, I suppose, and do it the same way. Right?
Yeah, we could do it the same way.
Just
Semantics,
to be open,
terminology,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
a request for
Evaluated
proposal,
the next
RFP.
day.
request for proposal to be received
can
at
do it
noon
that
on Wednesday, at the
And then we
treasurer's
were
office.
setting our own rules.
Is that a fair
Yeah.
timeline that you talk to Lesko and/or one of the others within the next 2 days and then go out? And then by Monday, the 30th, you'll have that we then, do you think that's doable?
Is there any procedures, for advertising, or if you want to get anybody else that is interested, or, I mean, how is that?
If we're not doing an actual competitive bid, we can make the structure be what we define it to be. And we don't have to do a competitive bid. So no, there wouldn't be a prescribed timeline or legal notices required that we would, if we had to go that route.
Then I think then it's doable.
Okay.
We've done so
I
much
agree.
of the legwork on this already, so I think it's very doable, and we know what to do with that.
Well, I guess I just want to be clear that, a lot of, I guess, serious legwork has been done, and it's been done by everybody here, trying to make sure we spent some time, and that we did not come in with something that we did not, as a group, feel comfortable with, because living in this community, we know we got to look at it every day. And consequently, it was important for it to be something that we would all be proud of. And we understand that's pretty much, along with the responsibility of fiscally, what's driving us to do the best we can.
I got another question then. We have a direction then for this, and we'll pursue that, but when we're looking at a project of a smaller magnitude, like the pit for the shot put, that's a much smaller project. I think that that's just a simple excavation of the present material. I don't think we need to go ahead and have that to be spec'd out, right?
No, I would think that the new track, the new lane for the running track.
That's
and
on
you
a higher, that's on a higher
probably
level.
want to make the consultant aware that work needs to be done as well.
Right.
And let them know that it's come. Maybe
Yes.
we can't afford to do it now, but
Yeah.
at least have it on the drawing.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead with that then, so that we can include that work in this whole scope.
Right.
We could
Just
change
get-
these bids potentially if someone else can do a track. They know
Right,
that's
if
out
they-
there.
it's all, I mean.
Yeah, it's a package.
We can't even use our track right now, right? That's the
We
inside lane.
can't use the inside lane, right.
So,
And
and
it
that's
is-
something we need
it
to
needs-
fix as well.
It needs immediate attention. It's not gonna be able, excuse me, it's not gonna be able to make it beyond this season without attention. We're gonna have to put money into it whether we like it or not.
Do you attribute that deterioration to drainage at all, Bill, or do you?
From the track?
Yeah.
The track is 20 years old, and they're expected to last about 12 to 14. The track is
So
outlived
just,
its life.
yeah.
It's a latex track. It hardens over time, and the polys and that stuff's
Does anybody have the drawings from the last time the track was done? Do you know?
Not that I know of. The track was done, I think, back in '92, and that was a little before my time. So, but
Fanning and Howie did it. I remember when they did. I was working with the guy that was on that job at the same time.
Did All American Track do the
All American Track did it, so
recoding
they
on it,
may
though?
have all the.
Somebody
So
had a
I think
drawing.
they might have something.
If somebody had a drawing, that would save, that would be helpful
save
to
some
time.
whoever you're gonna have make the new drawing.
Right.
We just it looks like we resurfaced it is all we did.
Yeah.
We didn't change anything underneath, so now we may need to.
Yeah, I think from what I can tell and having, groups look at it, they're all saying the same thing. You have the surface issue, but we don't know what kind of damage we have underneath with the asphalt. And all you have to do is go and walk on the track. And in addition to lane 1 having some of the issues you have there, go take a look at the middle of the track and you'll see some bowing and bulging there that is also, at this point in time, we don't know really what's going to happen underneath. And in the groups that I've talked with, they're coming back with the same information, that it's going to be in addition to the resurfacing, there's probably some issues underneath. It's been a while since I think it's had any maintenance whatsoever.
And then the other things are just minor, like the walkways, the asphalt walkways. That's not obviously going to cause any need to do a specking out of anything. It's just very minor.
Look at, the cost of concrete is very close to asphalt
Yeah.
right now, though.
Dave mentioned that. The problem that you have with that, Tim, honestly, is that now you got two different looks.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing.
We have all asphalt there as a walkway around the track, and now if you're gonna mix concrete and asphalt,
So you're repairing.
aesthetically, it just doesn't
give
look
it uniform.
So you're
pleasing.
repairing.
Right.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
think
I
we're
would
better
agree with
off,
you, though.
even though the price might be comparable now, it's not gonna
close,
do what we need to in the
If you're
aesthetics.
just patching, no.
That's right, it's gonna look patched, exactly. Whereas the asphalt's gonna blend into what
But
we
you'll
already
probably
have.
find that the same contractor that's gonna do the track will do
We'll
that
do that
asphalt
too,
patch.
that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Rather than having separate people
Right.
come out.
If we add that into this specification, do you believe that you can still meet that same timeline of 2 weeks? I don't, I see you shaking your head right away, Mike, because that's
Yeah.
what I would say. I think it makes sense to complete them together, but the track, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're already resigned to the fact that this is something that we'll complete by a year from now, spring. But the football field,
I think realistically, if you had all this ready to go in 2 weeks, you'd be doing a great job. Maybe you'll get further beyond that, but I think you could have everything drawn and ready to go. Maybe sooner, I don't know, but I think that would be a great
Well,
work if you had it all together.
I'm right here trying to write the resolution for where to proceed. And if we're going to throw in information about the track,
So we just say we authorize the administration to go out and write specifications for the football field, the irrigation, the replacement of the track, the replacement of asphalt repairs, center pool, whatever things, and to receive, we're gonna say, it's not gonna be bids, but requests for proposals for each of those items. And if we have the football fields ready to go before the track, so be it. I mean,
Say
that's,
sealed proposals.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? Would have all the specs and drawings ready.
I guess the only other thing I'd ask for clarification on is because you've got the shot and the shot put area, which you've got a invitational coming up here pretty quick. And one of the goals was to have that particular piece ready to go before that invitational, like on the second week of May.
That's a separate company in a way, and I
How
if
many
you
dollar
are not
item is
worried
that?
if we're just gonna get an RFP for that, but no specs, that's
Yeah,
just
I think that
excavation.
yeah, that's.
So if you guys are okay with that, I'm ready to come to the next board meeting with a recommendation to get that done.
Yeah, I'm
And-
fine. I mean,
And that's a
yeah.
small,
Can you still get that done in time? Because that's only
I would
4 days
think.
before the track.
Yeah.
It's gonna be close.
when is it?
I want,
May 4th or
I think
5th
it's
or
May
something.
4th or 5th is
Yeah,
when I
it's the
think the
beginning of May,
invitational is.
yeah.
Yeah, that might be tough.
I mean, that one's so inexpensive.
What
that I
is,
can't
what is the
imagine.
ballpark figure for that, just in general?
I want to say somewhere, I've got between that and the paving, they were running around 31 to 35, I think.
Might
That's
be
under the
38
threshold.
on that one, but
That's under
I
the
don't know.
threshold where we need that.
Somewhere in there.
But it
And-
needs to be done.
And, yeah, that's under the threshold, so that's your discretion.
Yeah, I
to
think you
go
can
and get
just
it
go
done.
ahead and get that done now
I agree.
if you're all
Yeah.
good with
That's
that.
probably the
Well-
one I think we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's under the threshold. If you're under that
The 4,000.
4,000, you make it happen for that, then you don't need to go through it, so let's just get it done.
Okay.
Now, as far as the track, I wrote a resolution here for the football field. To include that, it gets,
Yeah, I know.
it changes the complexity of it. And maybe then, we at this same moment add a second resolution similar to what we had last month on the football field for the track, and we say, to the best of your ability, share this with the people who are bidding. But to combine them,
Part of what happens.
I don't know if it's going to delay it or not. I don't know.
When you bring in any company, I mean, you want that company to come on in and take a look at the facility and walk it, take a look at it. I mean, all that takes time to get it scheduled and get them to come on in here. I think the specs help in that process, but you also have to allow the time for these companies, and especially in the case of track. You know, I've had All-American come in, they have looked at it. We're familiar with them, but.
This is the
I'm
company on
also-
the track.
Yes.
Okay.
There's probably 2 other companies I'm trying to get. I just got off the phone with somebody from Illinois who has some groups that he works through here, that his name came through a person from LaGrange who does poly, but we couldn't afford the poly. But he had some connections of some people that should come on over, and one of the things that I want to get looked at is the asphalt if possible. But they all have to come in here and take a look at it to be able to come back with some concept of how they're going to handle the bid.
So the way you do that is, you get these drawings and specs, and everybody knows what they're gonna do.
Right.
And you set a date that's convenient for you. You have to give them enough time, 2 or 3 weeks down the road, and you say, we're gonna have a pre-bid conference on, May 3rd at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Anybody that's interested in repairing this track, please show up at that meeting at that time, and we're gonna walk you through that route. We're gonna go through it. You can say, sometimes they say it's, if you wanna bid the job, it's mandatory. Sometimes they say it's not. That's if you wanna get
Right.
somebody else, and, then you have to do it 3, 4 times. A lot of
Okay.
times you'll just say, be there on the 2nd at 3 o'clock, and you,
In addition to a walkthrough, though, aren't you handing them a list of specifications?
yes.
Yeah.
But they're already, everybody's the same thing.
Everybody's getting the same.
The track's gonna be 1 inch thick, the topping's gonna be this material.
Right.
You know, and then they all know what it is. Now, then they may have some questions at that meeting.
So that's the purpose of the walkthrough.
Right,
You're
but
gonna
you get
give
them all
them
there
a
at the same
list.
time, so they all hear each other's questions. You know, can we put this kind of head instead of this head, yes or no? You know, then everybody can bid the same thing.
That's how we did, for example, when we replaced the bleachers both
Right.
of the times.
Right,
We had.
right, a pre-bid conference.
Mhm.
So treat the track separate from the field then.
Ken?
As much as that we would like it together, I
gonna
think
be
if
two
we try to
separate
combine it, we
contractors.
delay the one that has to get done sooner than the other.
gonna be
And
separate
my gut tells
contractors.
me they're two different companies, it's
Yeah.
all,
I agree.
so if that's the case, then I'd like to recommend a resolution to authorize the administration to complete the recommended by the board details of the football field specifications, and then subsequently proceed with an RFP for the project with proposals due by April 30th, 2012.
The only thing I'd throw in there is and I know you will, make the consultant aware that we're gonna repair the track, so if there's any commingling of the work that they would do to prepare specs or drawings, or that they're at least aware that that other project is coming. You know, maybe we'll change the elevation of the catch basins or something like that. That's good. That's my only comment.
And you made the motion
I will
I'll
make the
second.
motion.
I'll second, I'm sorry.
by Tim.
On that point, if we would look back at our resolution from last month's meeting on specifications, have a little bit of dialogue, so maybe we can revise that wording so that there isn't confusion, and then we use that similar wording at our April 30th meeting about the track. Okay?
This one, that was worded to adopt a resolution authorizing the creation and maintenance of a qualifications file for design services to include design services for replacement of the football field. So this one was kind of a dual resolution, where the board had to authorize creation of that design qualification file, and then the football field
Yep.
was
And
added on
I'm
to
just,
that.
all I'm saying is,
Let's-
at the April 30th meeting, you talk about that administratively and come back if you feel it needs to be reworded so that there isn't confusion. We want to refine it.
Okay.
You agree?
Once we vote on this one, I want to talk about that in a minute, so let's just,
Okay, then please call the roll.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Rainey?
yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
My only suggestion would be is let's put together some language, just like you just did, and as it pertains to the track, so that they can get started on that
Yeah.
as well. I mean, it's
Yeah.
something we know we have to do. The first step is to get the consultant involved. You're really doing the same thing, and it'll allow the consultant to do it all at the same time. It's gonna be more cost-effective just to let them, I mean, you guys know what we need to do to the track.
Yeah.
Let them tell them at the same time. It's probably gonna go on the same drawing if they can do it, and they'll just begin to do it.
It's the
We know
second
we
step
gotta
of
do
the
it.
drawing, yeah.
Yeah.
The drawing piece is easy.
Right. And then they'll just pull out specs for
Yeah.
they're gonna wanna know if you can find out what's already on the track, the old drawing would be great, or
See if we
specs
can-
or anything would be great, and that would really send them on their way. So I'll make a motion that we also include the consultant's work for repairing the track and the associated asphalt repairs needed around the track
Okay.
to be included in the work, to be included in the scope of work that the consultant's gonna do, and to include specifications and drawings as they see we need to complete the job. That makes sense? That was a lot.
Say it.
Let's, before you second, make sure that you were writing furiously.
I'm going to probably abbreviate a little bit there, but that we're going to authorize the the development of specifications for the repair of the track and associated asphalt work, and for the consultant to develop specifications and drawings for the project.
Beautiful.
Move. Second. Any other thoughts, discussion? And please call the roll.
Mr. Reedy?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
welcome.
Appreciate
Thanks,
all of
guys.
that research. Hopefully that in 2 weeks we're taking it to fruition.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on my report is student drug testing policy. Our board attorney right now, after talking with Neola, is working on a policy that I'm going to be giving to you as soon as it's done. This is a goal that you've given me and you charged me with, and that just like this football field project, we're taking very seriously, and it's a lot of details and work that we want to be sure that we're taking care of. And what I'd like to say is that as soon as I get that, I'm going to give you the policy, and I'd like you to look at it and give me feedback on the policy. What I'd also like to do, once we get that from him, though, is give that to our community. Let them look at it at the community drug task force meeting, that we, not the drug task force meeting, but the community meeting that we have on the 23rd. I'd also like to put that out to the community on our website. I don't believe that, I believe that the community needs to see this as well as us before we finalize it, but I would be willing and ready to recommend to our board that we move on this possibly by the next board meeting or soon after, because I think that we're all in a unanimous agreement that drug testing for our athletes and with our extracurricular activities and for our parking passes is the direction that we want to go. And that this is not a punitive thing, but it's a way to help our students, give them an out, so to speak, when they go to a party or they go to an event that they might be at with their peers that gives them a reason not to do drugs or alcohol. So we know that there's been good input about this from the community. We've been working on the task force. Our attorney's working on the policy through Neola. Mr. Jordan.
Having been to the last 2 drug task force meetings, we have had very little discussion about drug testing.
Right.
The focus on those 2 meetings was the educational programs and this upcoming meeting, all educational related. The drug testing, how much dialogue happened in that in the drug task force meeting, in the meeting before I was able to come?
Some, but we need to have some more, and I'd like to call another meeting before the next board meeting so that that
good.
task force is comfortable with it. We've also had a community meeting that's put this out to the community. We've also put it on the website, and by that time then I think we've given enough opportunity then for total community input as to push this forward. But if we're not comfortable at that time, we could always say, okay, let's wait. But I'd like to keep moving.
At this point on this particular policy, our specific choices in how we write the policy have huge impact on the cost to the district.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I would request that the next
Put that
report that comes to
information.
us, and it can happen in a week in review, it can happen
We're going to do that.
before the next board meeting, but give
Right.
us that information that says,
Right.
if we choose to do it in this manner, policy A, the cost will be this much annually, and so
Right.
forth. And give 3 or 4 different options.
We will.
Because we know what the variety can be.
Yeah,
You're
just
talking
real
about
quick,
testing and random testing.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
and,
right.
and how we do it. Do we test everybody to start the season, or do we just go into the season, week 1, there's going to be some random testing? there's an example of a plan A and a plan B, a
just
policy A and policy
constant
B. And
random.
one's going to cost a lot more because we're doing everybody, and the other is just random, and there's reason to be safe because you might be chosen. We're hoping that the drug task force, weighs that dialogue, and then you have a dollar and cent value to it for the year for us to evaluate when
Right.
we vote on a policy.
Because, for example, if we were going to do it for everyone at the beginning of the year, would we do that then for each subsequent season or activity? Or, like Sid said, if you do random, certain percentage of the participants on an ongoing basis, it does have a really drastic impact on the
Phil,
cost.
didn't you have a price that you sent out, like a rough figure? That if we did everybody would be like
We did
16,000?
based on testing everyone at the beginning of the year at a certain dollar amount, but that was only a rough estimate.
Okay.
Because of the type of tests. There's different type of tests you could do. Some of them are alcohol related, some of them are a different battery of how many different drugs you can test for. And then it's based on volume sometimes, and so there's a lot of different options here.
There's a
that we've gotta
10
weigh
panel
out.
and a 12 panel, is there not?
Right.
I think that's the two of them that are most common right now.
Not, one of them is a
Margaret was doing a
9 panel, I think.
9-panel.
Nine
And they
panel.
were paying 28, and I don't know what EC.
Paying $11.
The guy
Yes.
called us back today, they were on spring break last week, so we couldn't talk to them and confirm it, but had left a message that they were $11.
Right.
But we don't know what they're testing for.
If you can summarize that succinctly, this plan's going to cost this much, this plan's going to cost this much. If you have that ready for next week's meeting, I don't know that based on the dialogue of the format of that meeting, if that fits in, but I would work to fit it in at the end of that meeting.
You're talking about the drug task force meeting.
I'm
You're
talking
the
about
next
the
board
community meeting
Community meeting,
next
yes,
Monday
yes.
night. It is
Yeah.
next Monday, to the best of my
Yes.
knowledge.
Yeah, we
At
would
that
like to-
meeting, we talked about an outline that has to fit in there somehow.
Yeah, we'd like to get that.
Because only that way would you get feedback from the community that they say, well, that works, and yes, we're willing to have our schools spend that kind of money.
Right.
Can you make one of the bullet points that you're going to get a price for to test everybody annually and to have 10% random testing? Just have that as one of the cost items?
Sure.
You say everybody.
Everybody that's all that we can, I guess. I mean, again, and I know Dale's the same way, I'd like to be able to test everyone. I don't know if we're targeting, are we doing this in the high school only, starting from 8th grade to 12th? Is that?
That's what
Is
I
it-
would recommend.
Yeah, that's what I was, so I guess I'd like to know what it costs to test every student, whether it,
And the problem that we.
Whether they participate in an activity or no.
I know, and that's something we have to think, I know.
No, that's fine, I was just clarifying.
Yeah, I know we'd probably be tested on that, but
That's what I was
Whether
gonna
they
say.
par-
I don't know if
What do you
that's-
mean, Amy? I didn't follow what you
right
just
now,
said.
I think we've heard that it's been challenged, that the only people you can test are students in extracurricular activities and those that park.
That's right.
Otherwise, you're gonna be testing the law.
That's right.
But I'd still like to know how much it costs to do the students that are in extracurricular activities and park,
Okay.
and also all the students.
The entire
Oh, okay.
student body.
All right,
You
so
know,
then
just-
I'm glad I asked to clarify, because I didn't understand totally at first.
Because I would like to talk about that at the community meeting and see what people think. I mean,
So what are considered extracurricular activities? Would dances be qualified for that?
It could
I
be
think so.
theoretically, yes.
So,
Everything that we, I think, have lumped into the pay to participate list, those are privileges, not rights. And that's how I think we've qualified it, I think.
Yeah.
I
that-
think that's the interpretation of the judicial opinion, I think.
If we start talking about testing the entire student body, we might, that's very controversial, as you know.
well, I think that's what we want, though. I mean,
I understand what you're saying, but be prepared to have as much probably, I could anticipate that could be more controversial times 10 than our school uniforms ever were.
Yeah, but
The only thing I can tell you is I know for a fact that 3 students from the class of 2010, that's only 2 graduating classes earlier in this, have already died because of drug overdoses. And that's
I
what I'm looking.
understand
We
all
can
of that, and
educate-
I'm not arguing pro or
No,
con
I'm
against
just-
it, but I'm just telling you that now you're talking about people's constitutional rights to be
I
able
know.
to
well,
drug test anyone, anytime, anywhere, not
No,
anywhere
that's not-
necessarily, but.
No, that's
yeah.
not what I'm after.
no.
Yeah.
That's not what we're after. We're after educating these kids before they go out and do drugs and alcohol, so that we can help them, so that when we say 3 years from now, the class of 2012, that every one of those kids are alive and all the ones behind them, that none of them have overdosed on drugs, because they understand what it is that it takes to say no when somebody.
And I understand that, but you know that there's going to be
I know.
some people that are going to come at you, just like I said, that now you're going to
I
say,
know.
now you're wanting to test my student.
And I'm just saying,
And
let's talk
anytime,
about it.
anywhere.
Even if we have nobody in our district who feels that way, who's a resident here, if you take some time and research this on the internet, you'll find convincing evidence that if we're the ones who do that, the ACLU and all of the money and power they have behind them will be right here in Vermillion on this one. And we have to decide, are we going to choose to?
We don't know that for sure, but that it could
Well,
happen.
it could happen.
It's
But
likely.
if you research, read it, it sure looks like it.
I feel bad for the ACLU going after people trying to make their schools safe.
Exactly,
So-
exactly. But that's a position they take
It's a
relative to all of
decision we'll
us.
have to make. But that's, I mean, just to start the
Yeah,
conversation,
we'll
let's just.
definitely look at that, and we'll cost it out, and we'll get that up as one
The
of the
series of
items.
options that we're looking at.
Now, they must, for example, when they do randoms, come on site then would be what we would be proposing, because I know, for example, for the administrative staff, if we're drawn on a random, we have an hour to report to the occupational health at Lorraine, or they automatically report us as a positive if we don't show within an hour.
We have 48 hours
Do you?
to get there. Yeah, we
I
have
think that
48
for
hours.
students is
We
an
wouldn't want the liability of
unbelievably
putting them on the road.
unrealistic thing to have happen. And whatever,
No, what I think you can
whatever
do-
EC and Margaretta are doing, that's
Look at
what I
that.
presume you've already looked at or are going to say, this is how it's done there and this is what we
The
recommend.
testing company I'm familiar with, if you test 5 people, they'll come to your site
Okay,
and charge you the same rate as you go into them.
okay.
So if we set up our program so you random enough students, not just picking one on a day or two, but a number that the testing company would say, okay, that's worth it for us to come to your
Send
site.
somebody out.
And where are we at with staff?
That needs to be discussed yet, and it's not, at this point, it needs to be discussed. Staff, you're referring to classified and teaching, correct?
Anybody
Yeah.
that gets a paycheck from the school district, including me.
I passed.
I'd expect nothing less.
And just one other closing thought in our policy, I'm sure it's going to include counseling of some sort so I mean that might be a cost too that we have to consider, because it really doesn't do any good to have the testing without, I mean, what's the end result? If someone tests positive, we want to get them counseling.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, and the question will be, are we going to financially
Pay
pay
for
for
it,
that? Or
right.
are we just going to say that as a result, if you haven't passed the test, it's
Then you're-
mandatory for you if you want to continue on
Yeah.
Right.
to get that?
The other policies that we've seen from EC and Margaretta, I don't know if everybody read those in detail, but basically that's what they say.
Right.
In that first testing positive, they have given somebody the option to not be suspended if they agree to do a counseling program at their own cost. And I would assume that what you're going to come to us and propose is very similar. But that was in all the examples that we saw.
We have some similar provisions already for.
Our sports,
In our-
the extracurriculars,
in our
yeah.
handbook, yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Everybody? Me too. Okay, the next item is recommend a resolution to adopt the following new and revised policies previously provided. These are policies number 1460, 1613, 2120, 2260.01, 3122.02, 3160, 3161, 3213, 3215, 4122.02, 4160, 4161, 4213, 4215, 5113.02, 5330, 5512, 6152.01, 6231, 7434, 7540, 8210, 8431, 8500, 8510, and 9160.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Now, just for clarification, these have all been presented to us in the past. We've reviewed these all in the past. They're now just here in front of us for a final vote. No changes at all from the last time we looked at them?
No changes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And next time, just say as listed.
At 4160, I thought
of that.
And as the rest listed.
Yada, yada, yada.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Rainey?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 9 is the consent agenda. There is one item on here that is a late, last-minute subtraction that we're going to pull from here. Got to find it. Under one-year limited administrative or supervisory contracts, Joshua Thomas, Technology Coordinator. We're going to pull that from the list. And it is my understanding that it's being pulled because Mr. Pempin was just informed that Josh is going to be leaving our employ and is moving from the area. So that's the reason that this last minute.
Which one is he under?
Under administrative or supervisory contract, Joshua Thomas, Technology Coordinator.
One other one I'd like to also, sorry, I didn't get to tell you earlier, item E, the OPSI contract.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll move that we accept or approve all the others as listed under the consent agenda.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Rainey?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis? Yes. And Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, let's go to item E, pulled from the agenda. This is to approve a one-year extension of the negotiated agreement between Vermillion Board of Education and OPSI Local 332 through June 30th, 2013.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I just did not want to skip over this without acknowledging the fact. I know it wasn't, I just didn't want it to go through without anybody in the community knowing. I know that there was some negotiations that took place, and in the past, they've been a lot longer than this, and I'm just appreciative to our administration and those at OPSI that we got through this so quickly. I mean, maybe, Phil, you could summarize a little bit of what that agreement is. I don't know if
It's a one-year agreement, and it's under the same terms and conditions that we negotiated the last contract. And Tim, I agree with you that we appreciate that OPSI was willing to come with, to us with this proposal. And obviously, it's a time saver for us not to have to go back to the table. And it enables us to stay focused on the academic work, which OPSI knows that that's our first and foremost thing that we need to concentrate on. So as far as the terms, like the details.
It's just 1 year extension is all. I mean, everything's
Correct.
staying the same. We're just
Right.
going forward, just the way it is.
That's correct.
That's great.
And we are
Great news for
appreciative
everybody.
of the leadership of Mr. Harding and the OPSI, the entire OPSI staff. And I will be meeting with them on the 23rd and talking with them personally again, because I try to get together with their entire group and just answer any questions that they might have about staffing and future goals and plans. And I'll personally talk to them, thank them all at that meeting, because it's difficult to get them all in the room at one time.
Well, I just want to add that we save a lot of money when we avoid extended negotiations, and this was streamlined thanks to everyone who made that work.
Yeah, we've been very, I think we've done very good with that, with both the teachers union and with OPSI in the last few years, and it's definitely been a cost savings to the community. And that's appreciated on both parts. It wasn't pulled from the agenda. Do I need to wait until after?
No, we're going to vote on it right now.
We're going to vote on it.
We're
You
gonna
can,
approve
you
it right
can.
now.
Yeah. We've already approved the consent. We pulled that one, so we will.
Just for discussion.
So I can comment now or talk?
Yeah.
On
We
the
have
OPSI contract?
No.
The
No, we have
OPSI
to vote on
contract,
it,
we
yeah.
need to call to a vote.
Okay.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Rainey?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. I mean, we are now at the item number 9, other business that may come before the board.
I'd like to congratulate, and they're in the audience tonight, Phil Brickner and Beth Bartlome. And they're been in our district now for quite a while, and we're very appreciative of them coming into the administrative ranks and being willing to do that. We think we put you through a pretty rigorous ordeal as far as interviewing, and we think that it was pretty challenging for you and for us, because you made the choice difficult for us, in terms of especially the assistant principal's position. There was another inside candidate that applied. Mr. Brickner, there were inside candidates and local people that applied, and you were up against a lot of competition. So you two, though, were definitely the shining stars of the group. So we're appreciative to have them on board with us, and we're really looking forward to them being part of our team. So thank you for being willing to take a risk, because to get into administration sometimes, I'm sure there's going to be times, even tonight, while you're wondering what you did. So, thank you.
Yes, congratulations, the two of you.
And that's all I have.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a date and location of upcoming board meetings. I regret to point out that an upcoming board meeting will be again tonight at 7 o'clock. It's a typo, it should not be on there. We have our special meeting scheduled for Monday, April 30th. Note, that one is at 7:30. And then our regular meetings, Monday, May 14th, and Monday, June 11th. Those are on the regularly scheduled dates. Is that still okay with everybody?
It's fine.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. Therefore, next, item number 13, I want to recommend a resolution to move into executive session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employees, and for the purpose of preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees, the sale of property at competitive bidding, and for matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. Also move.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Rainey?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Motion carries.